Okay. I am Selena Teal. I am just west of the Denver metro area in Colorado. And I am one of the founders of Office Mercenary, which is a team of virtual assistants handling a wide variety of kind of first tier admin tasks and some second tier. Um, Troy, if you want to start pulling up those documents, I'll give it like one quick little thing, and that way we can jump right into things fairly quickly. Uh, a VA tends to be a really, really broad term that handles a lot of different stuff. Social media management is technically a form of VA. Some social media strategists, which are two different things, will occasionally call themselves VAs. There's VAs who specialize in sales and lead generation, which is probably more what Troy wants as opposed to a personal remote assistant. The idea of personal remote assistance is a thing, but there's also the expectation there that maybe they're helping you plan vacations or making sure that your kids are getting picked up. Yeah, lots of different terms. The easiest thing to do is if you have a vague idea of what you want your VA to do when you're looking for a VA, lay out, this is what I need you to do. If you cannot do that, can you refer me to someone who can? Um, and then there's different kind of groups of VAs. There's obviously overseas, which are, yes, largely going to be cheaper. And so if price is your big thing, that is definitely a way to go. I've run into really great overseas VAs. I've run into questionable overseas VAs. There's not anything inherently wrong with them. There's independent VAs, which is actually where I started when I left the corporate world. I did it on my own for about 3.5 years. The advantage to that is you've got someone who's super duper dedicated to you and you have this really intense, close relationship to them. The downside is if they get sick, they have a family emergency, they forbid go on a vacation too. They don't work out, there's no backup system in place. Then you've got the really, really big companies that do VAs. One of the VAs for like Richard Branson ended up opening her own company. And then you've got a huge team. Yes, you will always have someone covering it. Yes, they do tend to be middling to higher priced. Do you have that personal relationship? Less so. Then you get kind of these weird in between companies like mine, where we actually do function as a team. My business partner and I, between the two of us, have well over 20 years in the admin space. I started doing admin work when I was 16 because I'm insane. Uh, and then we have other VAs who are kind of starting out. We train them. We help create operating procedures and clean up these type of training documents if you happen to have them, which is always great if there is a training document or some sort of systems operations procedures written out or in a video that people can refer back to. That is something I'm always going to recommend. If you don't know how to do it yourself or how you like doing it, it's really, really hard to hand it off. Really hard to hand it off. So, but we're kind of a boutique one. We'll help clean up and create that thing and then provide extra support for when you have your independent VA who's kind of your one-on-one kind of go-to person, but we provide backup and support if they have problems, if they get sick, if they get busy, if they don't know how to do something, one of us can step in and help.
So you're like a built-in insurance policy.
We are a built-in insurance policy. If your VA doesn't work out for any reason, we step in and we basically make sure the lights stay on and everything keeps running until someone else gets in. Um, and that's basically the risk that my business partner and I take on running that is that sometimes we're going to be in the weeds doing the work. We haven't had to do it very often because we're very picky about the people that we hire, but it has happened once and it worked okay. Everything kept up and running.
Yeah, I was
So,
letting the group know that I released a few VAs not too long ago, and I'm suffering it for it. I'm feeling it. I feel like I gotta do this work.
yeah, trying to do it like I'm not going to say that when my partner and I ended up going in, we're like, okay, we've got to take over this. Oh boy. There were some late nights, but the point is we were mostly the ones doing the late nights as opposed to the client doing the one spending the late nights trying to get caught up with everything.
Right. So,
So
quick question, from the range from overseas VA to remote PA, personal assistant, whatever. What is the dollar range like? Just because of my ignorance, I know that you could pay as low as $4 or $5 in certain countries, but pay as high as, for on the executive end, a lot more. So, what's a good average range if someone needs a good virtual assistant to kind of stay within?
within like the kind of the happy medium.
Yeah.
Um, the happy medium, if generally, like our base fee is for something non-specialty
Hmm.
is 27 an hour.
Hmm.
If you've got a solo person, honestly, if they aren't charging $30 an hour at least,
Hmm.
they're either brand spanking new and trying to build up a client base,
Hmm.
which is fine. They can still be super duper awesome,
Hmm.
or they're not very good and they know that they're charging less to try to get people signed up and going, and then they'll work for 2 months and then you have to replace them.
Yeah, I think I went and crossed that last week.
So if you're getting something kind of US based, th- right around 30
Okay.
is a happy place.
So, like an executive could go up to 50 or 60 or something like that. More the personal, remote personal assistant. And so, could be
As
all across the board, huh?
executive assistants, anyone who's in like a very high end kind of specialty.
Hmm.
So if you get, I mentioned ones that specialize in like lead generation and that kind of sales stuff,
Hmm.
that you might pay a little bit more for because that's all they do.
Yeah,
However, you
require
ask them,
more communication, different kind of communication as well.
yeah,
Them to think. Yeah.
different communication skills. However, you go in, you ask them like, hey, can you clean up this Excel spreadsheet?
Hmm.
Maybe, maybe not,
Yeah.
because that's not what they
Well,
do.
I do, huh? There you go. Well, I like to.
We're getting a little feedback there. Okay, so what I have here, and don't worry, I expect you to, Selena, to tear it up. So I have a training doc and I have an FAQ doc, right? And I know I may have to have several training docs, but I had very little time to put this together, and it looks a little familiar. You might notice. So I originally did some training for another client, and I put in, some training videos on how to do stuff. So this right here is really for me, but I want to probably talk about, not for me, but for clients. But what I want to do is I want to talk about how we can apply that for anything, and then what suggestions you have. I'm thinking number one is I probably need a training document for for different type of scenarios or tasks that need to happen. So this one right here, I put the title, I put a synopsis together that has a video link that kind of visually explains what the document is, so they don't get overwhelmed. The other thing is I talk about the overall business strategy of that client, what they're trying to do and why, so they get a consensus of understanding. Maybe I should have a video for that as well. Then this one right here is really about how to reply, and what are the four steps, the four major steps, and why it's important. So I try to start big, and I'm drilling down into individual tasks. And a lot of this is more thought process. And I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but it is step by step. For example, if a client has to, if one of our people have to reply for a client as if they were the client, LinkedIn accounts are very particular. They're not like responding on social media. So before they get to this, they see the intake document of the client. We have the meetings. We go through, all these items. And for me, is common sense, but I found out that common sense is not so common. So I have to transfer that knowledge. And not saying they're dumb, they're just not familiar with the easiest route to get where they need to go. For example, if I'm replying to I'm replying as a particular client, I need to know the client. I need to know how they verse their sentences, how they speak, who their partners are, because my main goal for all my clients is them to help. So I'm here to help. And so understanding that there has to be a thought process, but also a step by step process. So the first step would be to kind of review the message, itself. Then review the previous messages or conversations. Possibly review the actual profile, because in a conversation you always want a connection. You want to draw to see what's very familiar, what makes sense to talk about, if there is anything in there. And then I have step 3 and 4 that are optional. If they really need to dig deeper before they can get a good answer, they should look at the company profile. And then you can even go down to the site. And then there are certain things that come in. So I have a video on those are the steps in order to reply, but you need to figure out who to reply to and why. So before they get started, they understand the subject. Is this someone that's going to be interested? Someone that's not? Someone that just wants to have a conversation? Because you want to reply to virtually 98% of the people. The other 2% are just the bad people you don't want to reply back to on LinkedIn. But and so I put a video together, and this is what we call the daily list. So there's a spreadsheet and an email, and that's built out manually. And so that way the person replying has information to start from to go to that particular account to apply. And I'll go through this pretty quickly. I'm a long talker, so my apologies. We have overview on how to reply, certain instances on, if they say this, maybe do that. And then this is an example of a positive reply. How do you handle that? We may have another function like the posting parties, which may be a totally different thing. You're familiar with the posting parties, of course. And what that is if we post something, we need to boost that post on LinkedIn. How to go there, how to register, and all the mechanics for that. So I don't want to go through every little detail. There's a lot of stuff in here. But the other document is a strict FAQ. And an FAQ is, how do I reply? How do I find the links to reply and how to reply? How do I grab the booking link? What if he asks for my email? What if I have testimonials? He asked for a testimonial. I have some very good posts. So does my post fit the conversation? They say, I have this problem. I said, I did a post like the other week on that. Check this out. It comes in very handy. And then we go into the actual FAQs. And so the top 10 questions that come up. And so that way they can start it as a base. So I will stop talking because I have a very monotone voice and I'm not very exciting. But Selena, if you like, you can go ahead and comment on that, disregard it, or whatever you think we should do on that. Because what I'm trying to do is learn from you to make sure I structure this properly.
And after she answers that for you, Troy, I have a question for Selena as well.
Okay. So for Troy's question first, number 1, having it all in one place is great, because that way people can see it, they can refer back to it. Obviously, the training document is something that's going to kind of exist in their file. FAQ is going to be for the specific client that they're working with. When you're walking someone through this, you're going to want to break it up because it is a bunch of information all at once. One of the things that we do when we're hiring VAs is we don't want to give them like a big, hairy, scary test, but we do want to make sure that they are invested in working for us and with us and therefore with our clients. So one of the things is we'll be like, hey, here's a great big training document. I want you to get through this, this, and this. Come to me with any questions, and I'm going to talk to you again in 3 days, 2 days, whatever it happens to be, whatever your timeline is. And then you start that next meeting. It's like, okay, what do you have questions with? okay, walk me through this thing. Like, here's the dummy account. Walk me through this. Walk me through your thoughts.
So you're saying this document I'm showing right now is too large, and I need to break it up into those individual tasks.
I would break it up a little bit, because like how to reply, that, like, having some of that overview thought on how that works is great, but that's going to change per client to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, everyone wants to be friendly and helpful and provide value when they're responding on LinkedIn, as opposed to like, hey, here's my link, come buy stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's
But
a big term, come buy stuff.
come buy stuff. Not to get lewd, crude, and socially offensive, but one of my friends who puts it was like, yeah, it's like asking for sex before you've bought them dinner.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the overwhelming view of, yeah, don't do this. Make sure there is a conversation going if it comes up naturally.
It's a old-fashioned
Fantastic.
courting process. That's why I tell my clients, like, if you're courting someone, you go out there and you not just put your best foot forward, but you're attentive to them, and you go out and you open doors and you have polite conversation, and you don't try to close any deals. You're there to be the person to be with, and grow from there.
So giving them that kind of oversight view to make sure this, like, yes, this is what we're about and this is what our clients are about. Fantastic. But have that as kind of its own little thing. How to register per event video. Like, some of that is having this is like your basic training document,
Mm-hmm.
but having like, here's the stuff that you need to know right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And say like,
So,
okay, I
so
want you to
at
try
least
to log
personally,
into a
maybe
remote.
train. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. It's like, if you want to give, like, again, kind of low little tests, be like, hey, try to log into a remote desktop, look at some stuff on my profile, and how would you respond to these 3 people? Let me know in 2 days.
Got it.
If you have problems getting into the remote desktop, let me know. If they do it an hour before you're supposed to meet, you have an answer on what their work ethic is.
Got it. Definitely. And then we had someone else had a question.
Yeah, ready.
Ready.
Yes. Hi, Selena. So first off, Troy, I'm impressed with what you've got here because I have absolutely nothing. And the second thing is, I've got a VA who's been with me for probably 3, maybe 4 years. She does my social media posts. She has built a couple websites for me. She handles my Infusionsoft. She's certified, on and on and on and on. And if she had a heart attack and died, I'd be up the creek
Yeah.
because I have no clue as to how she does any of that because she's so good. I just say, I need this, and it gets done.
Ideally, you have a relationship with your VA that works like that, where you can just, I trust it's going to get done because you're great at doing what you're doing. One of the things that I usually recommend when you are working with a single VA, like it sounds like you're working with,
Yes.
is do occasionally have them say, like, hey, can you put together an SOP for what you're doing? Just as a backup system, you're still doing great. This is not like, I'm looking at potentially firing you, which is the other fear.
That way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see
Yeah,
that.
the fear is if she just decided to stop working or retire or had a heart attack, it dies.
Can I ask you something? Are you expanding any of your social media stuff at all? Like any more work? Because if you are, it would be a very good excuse to transfer that knowledge on a document, per time.
I'm not planning to. I don't even know how to. I mean, I don't even know how to post to Twitter or any of that. She does all that stuff for me. So, but I think what Selena said was ideal because if something happens to her, I'm out of business, is to ask her to put together a standard operating procedure.
It's and it's good to kind of update an SOP on a semi-regular basis anyway, because, you know, Facebook is notorious for changing how they do stuff. Oh, hashtags are completely out. If you use them, it's going to crush your reach. Okay, now we like hashtags. You can throw in one or two. We like that. Oh, never mind. They're back out again. That's
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, and she handles the Facebook stuff. I it's sort of like I know how to drive a car, but if anything is needed under the hood, that's what I hire someone for.
and if like sometimes typing out an SOP, it can be a time consuming drag. So something like a Loom
It wouldn't
video.
be for me because I'd have her do it.
It's true. It's true. But like another option for her is to do a Loom video, like while she's doing the stuff anyway. Just sit there and do it and have her talk through it while she's doing it. Like, yep, here I'm posting on Twitter. Here's where I normally grab this stuff. This is my thought process behind doing it. And then I hit post and I schedule this stuff this many days out.
So how long does it take to put together a standard operating procedure? I know it, like for me, it may not take as long because I have the components and I'm kind of a nerd. So I'm like a maniac. I'll just go through it. I'll do the videos, but I'm not a normal person. So if a typical, say you get a VA, you have a typical set of tasks, whatever they are, you're gonna concentrate on what they need to fix. And then you'll break out different tasks. And so even if it's the same person, you can treat them differently. So putting a standard operating procedure together, I'm just curious on how long, what's appropriate. And this is really for Rennie, not me.
um, in terms of the time it should take to build, like obviously people's writing speeds and how much they go back and tweak it and oh, I don't like that term. I want to, oh, you don't need to go necessarily into the nitty gritty. We have a client who signs all of her emails blessings. She's one of these yoga meditation, like kind of woo
Yeah.
woo. She doesn't need to put that in the SOP. That's something that the VA should pick up on though. But
But
as
you suggest a video along with step-by-step process.
we usually like to do both because it takes care of most people's type of learning process. Some people are visual learners, some people can read it and it's not a problem. That kind of covers both avenues. Generally, we say if it's taking you longer than a week to put something together, you're probably getting way too granular about it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get in there. Someone else, when you hand stuff off to someone else, they're going to read what you wrote and go, okay, I've got all of this, but this one thing, like the phrasing, the way they put it with this doesn't make sense. I need to ask a question about it. So that SOP is kind of a living document anyway. It's going to have minor edits and tweaks and stuff as you go. Get the big stuff down though. That's the big thing. If it's taking you longer than a week, you're doing too much with it. Break it out into multiple pieces. Get less granular. You're doing too much.
Yeah, so you're just trying to fill in most of the gaps by having the video as well as the information. So if they watch the video, maybe some of the details might be covered in those tasks. And then they have the common sense clause that comes in, and that's based on having a good VA.
That is based on having a good VA. As much as a lot of stuff is kind of standard procedure, and there should be like posting on Facebook. I'm going to use this example again. There's standard ways that is like, yes, this is the right way to do it, and you can tweak it for the person individually. But those little tweaks and edits that are your personal thing where you're like, yes, I want my email signed off with blessings instead of thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be where it's important. Even if you have an SOP, you want to be able to go back and spend at least a little time double checking stuff. Just especially like the first week, 2 weeks, just to be like, okay, oh, hey, I saw that you did this. Do sign off on blessings, or do make sure you use this hashtag because I really love doing it. I've gotten really great results with it. And they can come back. A good VA will push back and go, oh, actually, that changed. You really shouldn't be using that anymore. Or, oh, great. I'll take a note that you like that and add it to my notes. And it's not a problem.
So when you are going through training, do you just set up a date to check in, or do you have like tasks on a CRM? I'm not. I know I'm a nerd guy. Maybe it's too much, but
No, it's
there's
we have a full on project management software.
I'm
So our project management software we use is ClickUp. We moved into that, like we had done Trello, we'd done Airtable, we'd done a bunch of other things. We like ClickUp because it's kind of a nice combination of people who like the spreadsheet can have the spreadsheet. People who like the kind of Trello cards can look at stuff via cards. But that gives us an overview. If stuff looks like it's running late or anything like that, we can pop in, check, go, hey, what is the status of this? Even if it's not running late, someone's just like, okay, you did close this. Let's see what you actually did. Da, 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 da. It's that stealth check in to make sure that I'm sure we've all had that person who talks a really fantastic game. They sound beautiful. And then when it comes to actually getting stuff done, less fantastic.
Mhm.
That's that kind of safety net for you that is, they are doing the thing. How well do they take criticism? You say, ooh, I really want that instead of that. I get you like doing it this, but I really want it this way. Do they blow up in your face?
Mhm. Mhm.
Ideally, no.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, when to check back, do you have like a procedure for say, hey, I want you to take care of these tasks, and I want you to record the clips to do it, or do you manually review it, or what's like a good method? Because I'm thinking that, you know what, if we did have a standard operating procedure kind of documents and they are doing stuff, and then we ask them to do some of that work, would it make sense for them to record it? Oh, yeah, this is the message here, and this is the message here. This is what I wrote here, versus going into a system and logging into someone's stuff, you know.
And that is definitely like a good way for a quick check-in, especially early on. We're sort of like, this is what I'm writing. This is my thought process behind writing X versus Y. There will be a point where you want to do the like log in and just check and see, because they're obviously going to record the thing. They're like, I feel pretty good about this one.
Yeah, yeah. It might be skewed. Got it.
So that's people are hardwired to make themselves look as good as possible.
That's
Just
true. Yeah.
most people are.
I cut my own hair, by the way.
I mean, my husband cut my hair. Like it was,
Yeah.
he actually did a pretty good job. I was fairly impressed.
We've been like locked down for like years anyway, so we should be pretty good. You know, some people here don't have the problem for cutting hair. I see, just easy peasy, huh? Definitely.
Selena, as I'm so glad, Troy, you put this together, because it allowed me to realize, some major problems that I've got in terms of if something happened. As an example, the most recent podcast episode that she posted for me, she said, the title you used isn't very catchy. I suggest this one. And so I said, yes, I like that. And then there was something else, one of my emails, she said, oh, if you have this in your subject line, it'll probably hit the spam filters and won't get through. This is her level of skill. And so if I were to lose her, it'd be a problem. So I got to create some insurance. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I asked all the questions that I had. I think you're very helpful. I know that I need to break it up into more bite-sized modules. I know you like the FAQ thing, but that's not training. That's more response. You're using ClickUp, and the last speaker, Jesse Gilmore, P. Gilmore from last week, he also uses ClickUp. So I'm hearing a lot of good things about that. I didn't know if you knew that or not. And he was talking about just transferring that knowledge base, and they may not have all the little details, but if we have a VA, it would be great to have a VA train another VA, and take that over after a certain point. And if it's module enough, saying, yeah, these are the tasks that you're going to do. This is how long the task should take after you get pretty good at it, and this is how we're going to check it. Those are at least 85% repeatable tasks. That last 10 or 15% may be have some uniqueness to it, I think.
So can I recommend something? Just
Sure.
like so, I've been doing curation products for 20 years, and I had a client. It's the problems that we are talking about here. Where is that information, and why do I need to use it? And that information, if you document it like you're doing in FAQ type documentations, is something that becomes an asset for your company and you can reuse it all the time. And I also like to say that conversational chatbots, these UI interfaces, are really optimal for that because people can just ask it question. Hey, I need to post on Facebook, and this is the type of challenge I have, and you can direct them to the right information or to the right examples.
Hmm.
And they don't have to go through a large document to try to figure things out. They can just ask a question and get the answer for it. So with curation and chatbots together, you can really achieve both things and create assets out of your employees' knowledge and work habits and reuse it over and over again.
Yeah, I think that's very valuable. I think it's more valuable when you have enough information. So I think when we're building something specifically for VAs for individual tasks, the task is so finite, you know. But as the company becomes more mature, I think I think that's what they use now for AT&T and all that sort of stuff, right? I mean, those bigger companies, they have a vast knowledge base on how to fix stuff. Do they use a similar technique, Kron?
Well, the client I had was a huge insurance company in the UK.
Mhm.
And they had, we started with 3 people, and 150 people in that organization started using it. And what they found was that, number one, when they started putting these indexes, these curated portals together, it took about 2 or 3 months to optimize it, because they would put something out there, they would get feedback from people, and they would reorganize it. But once they did that, anytime they brought in new people, it was so much faster to train them because people knew where everything was. And in general, they created about 1,000 different links to different types of information, and they actively used 600 or 700 of them. 600 or 700 links is a lot of links if you want to go and try to look for it, even for an organization that's
So how much content is that? Say, for example, a Word document. I mean, because that's something we are familiar with, right? How many Word document pages would be that size?
Well, let me ask you this. How many FAQ? I just saw a table of content in your document. How many do you have in there?
Oh, for an actual FAQ, just 10. For a client.
You have 10 in there right now. That whole big document.
Well, each individual client has a top frequently asked questions. But besides the FAQs, and this is replying, this is not training, this is replying.
Right.
So on top of the FAQs, they have probably about 50 links that we use quite often. And there's a couple of questions that came up on the links that was private message to me. But so I have one large document for training, which I was told I need to break up to be more modular. And then I have the FAQ document is for replying.
But even 100 links, if I'm an assistant and I'm doing something online and I have a problem, if I can just ask a question and get my answers right away without having to go look through the documents, that is a huge help.
It is if the volume is large enough. For example, this one document is for a VA or a remote PA is a Bible. So the format's always the same. They already know the client. They're only going back because they need to copy and paste to start or grab a link. So it's not really knowledge base. It's more
index. A lot of information I have, I just use it as an index. You want to be able to get to that information quickly. You don't, to go in and start looking around to find it. That's the time consuming part, and you can really save it. Obviously, you can build on it, and with time, you just keep adding to it. But I would say if you have 70 or 100 links already, that's good enough as a basis. And you don't know.
We should talk. You sent me an email. I did not reply. So we should talk and do something along those lines, either through the LinkedIn post, because there's far more of those. But this is a good idea as well. I had a couple of direct messages. Pat had to drop off, but he was asking me on my list on one of my FAQs, how do I store the links for all the videos or to reference back? Me personally, I only put the things that I think are going to be relevant. So since I post 5 times a week, I'm going to have a lot of content. But I wouldn't list all that content out there, me personally, because I just think that what's important, right now, and they can kind of dig through the rest. So I have a top X amount. Lydia has also mentioned a few things here. She says she's talking about her software actually has project management, has a wiki. We all know. Do we all know what a wiki is? Okay, it's a depository of information, an LMS, and quite a bit of things all together. But I think what Karan is talking about is a little different. But yeah, that's pretty powerful. And along with sales, let's see here. And Karan is for saving and sharing links. We'll contact them, of course. So yeah, I'll contact you, Karan. I'll definitely do that. So I think these are very powerful things to do because, like last week, I'm doing too much. As an entrepreneur, I have too many hats. I'm a programmer, by the way, and I'm a UI guy and a UX guy, right? And I'm actually one of the, well, I used to be, it's been years, but I was top UX guy in Atlanta several years in a row. And I'm also, I guess, a sales guy now. I don't know. Project manager, architect, and then I built the return client company and building these documents and all that stuff. So I am by far like not a normal person, but rarely are entrepreneurs. They're rarely normal people. And I know I have 15 hats. I knock it down to 7. I want to have 0 hats. That's what I want to have, right? And by repurposing that knowledge transfer to training these VAs, you're reducing the number of hats. Because if you don't, you can't get past your ceilings. And that's the pain that I'm feeling like right now. Like after this, I got to take a nap. And I took some Mountain Dew. I don't think I'm sleeping. And then I'm going to wake up. I got to feed my daughter. And I have to jump on 2 other accounts. I'm not liking this at all. Although the clients are getting excellent replies, the VA we released, she was getting maybe like 4 or 5, booking links out a week for this one client, and he's getting close to 25 right now. So I think I did some improvement, but I don't want to be the be all and the only person because I'm the weakest link. So I'm trying to reduce that, But anyway, I'm blabbing. So Selena, if you can take over.
So kind of tying into some of the stuff that you were saying about entrepreneurs, there's actually like a platform called, I think it's 19 Hats. And it's supposed to be kind of a little like what Lydia was saying with Ventive and that sort of thing, where it helps do all this stuff. And it's okay from what I've heard. But the point is, small business owners, medium business owners, solopreneurs, they do a lot. So part of the whole idea of handing it off to someone is letting go of that control a little bit. Yes, if you are doing it, it is 100%, but it is taking you 100% of the time. Perfection is your enemy. 85% done and having it done and out the door, most of the time, 85% is going to get you there.
Yeah.
So the idea
I don't
is
need a 10. If she's a 6, it's good enough, right?
You can start if you get someone in
all the stuff out there, right? Without all the issues. So perfection is your enemy.
Perfection is your enemy. If you can get them in and they start at a 6, okay, yeah, there's room for improvement. Ideally, you get them up to an 8 or a 9, and then you end up with someone like Rennie's assistant who is like, yes, I can do all the things.
Yeah.
And that's great. That is not a plug and play option. That is not going to happen in 2 days.
Awesome.
VAs are still people.
So we're
But
getting close to the top of the hour. A couple people are dropping off. I want to just say thank you very much, Selena. And if anyone has any questions, we have a minute. If not, what we're going to do is drop off, and I'll save this and put it up on YouTube and post it on my company page, the Return Client company page. But I'm going to go ahead and keep this text. And Karan, I will arrange a meeting either next week or the week after to kind of get started on that. And you know what I wanted originally, but we will talk about that later. Thank you very much, Selena. Any last words?
Yeah, Selena, I highly recommend what Selena does, and she knows it because I've referred some people to her already. And if you guys don't book a session with her, I will have her booked up before she will have time to do anything with anybody else. It really kind of goes hand in hand with what I do, because I always tell business owners, make a calendar of what you do and make it and watch it 2 weeks in a row. And if you're seeing that you're doing some what I call grunt work that somebody else can do, that you can offload to somebody else, that's when you need Selena's help and her team's help. Be able to do the work that anyone can do for you. It's not selling, it's just doing the paperwork, it's doing the filing, it's doing the follow-up work that takes a lot of time, but doesn't, it isn't really what your focus should be on. So highly recommend her. And again, get her while she can, because I'm going to book her up with everyone. I said to her.
I mean, it's all about working on the business and not in the business. That's what it is. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Oh, and then next week we got Jason Dunlap, and he's big time. And I know, Rob, you're here every one of the meetings, but since you're in the sales, I want you to be on that. And that's going to be really exciting because he talks to all these big people and Gary Vee and all this other stuff. So he's like the sales guy, so I look forward to him. I just got him locked down. I pulled a card in favor. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.